Delighted to be joined by Lea Handley today, the Apollo podcast, the Apollo Online. We're finally back. It's been a while. I'm joined by Lea Handley, former professional kickboxer and boxer. Lea, I don't want to be the one to go through your achievements and everything you've done within the respective sports.
Yep.
So I just want you to go through and explain your career achievements so far.
Yep. Well, started back lacing up when I was about 5 years old. It was the only thing I was given, and choice really from my old man.
Yeah.
We started first gym. I used to train with my uncle and my dad. Used to have their own dojo, like kickboxing, and my dad used to compete, so I was training with them. And karate kind of stuff wasn't my thing. I moved on to sign up with Ian Pooley in Peterborough. I loved it. I had a successful kickboxing career. Started competing at 14.
How many kickboxing fights did you have?
10.
10
fights, yeah. Two championship belts. Southern Area Championship, which I took off the great Georgie Groves in Epping Forest.
Yeah.
And my second one was actually here in Leicester against your champion Bruno Singh. Which was actually one of my biggest fights in memory.
Can we just go back to George Groves?
Yep.
Of course, everybody that follows boxing will know George Groves.
Yep.
Can you explain that situation there? That was whether it was a rivalry, that period of your life fighting George Groves?
No, I didn't have a clue. It was. I was put in there for my first ever fight, and it was for the Southern Area title.
So your first ever kickboxing fight was against George Groves?
Yeah, in Epping Forest. He won that on points. I was in bits. I actually thought I took that fight and won it. As a little kid as well, don't want to lose. I remember getting pulled out by the ring afterwards, me and my dad, against an ex-professional boxer, Scrap Iron Ryan, who had a little photo with him, made me proud. He turned around and said to me, you won that fight.
Yeah.
He said, get another fight behind you, get back in there. So we took that advice, took a fight elsewhere in Birmingham, won that, come back for the Southern Area title again, stopped Georgie Groves the first round.
Oh, wow.
Took that title, so that was a good, great one there.
And how old at that point was you?
14.
14 at that point?
Yeah, 14.
So then you go on to the fight of Bruno Singh, who's very well respected in this city. How old was you during that point?
18.
18 years old.
18, yeah. Took that from my last kickboxing fight.
And at that point, that last kickboxing fight, and what was after you? What was after that?
After kickboxing fight, we applied straight for my professional boxing fight, signing with Ian Pooley again. We went and sat the boxing boards. They gave us a bit of advice to go and get some amateur boxing experience under us. They wanted to have a little bit of that. So I believe we took on 2 amateur boxing matches against 2 good lads. Stopped the first one first round, took the second one, KO'd the first one in the first round on the second one, which then became a little bit harder to get matched after that.
Yeah.
So then we had the ex-great Fen Tiger. He come down and sent by the boxing board to watch us spar. Had a little interview. He then went back to the boxing board, who then accepted and gave me my licence, my professional licence. So journey will start from there.
All this was at the age of 18?
Yep.
And so that turned pro at age 18?
Yep.
In terms of the professional career in boxing, what was the transition like from kickboxing to boxing? Did you feel much of a difference, or in your mind as a fighter, was it all just fighting?
It's just fighting. To me, it's fighting. It's just what I am. Do you know what I mean? Like what I have been. I never duck from a fight. You do have these ones who dodge and plan their careers.
That's what a lot of people don't realise about professional boxing. Of course, even with your record, you did it the hard way. A lot of people don't realise that if you don't have a TV promoter from the start, there's less time to be built up, and you're basically thrown to the wolves.
Of course.
And you fight anybody. And so these records can be fabricated, and fighters can be led to... People can be led to think that these fighters may be better than what they are, but if a lot of the fighters were put in positions like you, where you've basically just got to fight anybody, their records wouldn't be as golden.
100%, and that's what shows. I mean, my professional kickboxing records, brilliant.
Yeah.
Held 2 titles under there. My little boy's got my little title belt still under his bed. But yeah, in the pro ranks, my career record isn't so great. I had 10 professional kickboxing fights, 2 wins, 1 draw. But I've sat in there with the best. I've done the Sky Sports shows, absolutely brilliant. Barry Jones, that was in Wales. That was an excellent fight. Kell Brook. I walked out of that, you know, whoever says on there, I walked out with my hands up in the air. The crowd did everything. I thought I took that fight.
What's it like when you're seeing even Kell Brook as of recent do what he did against Amir Khan, knowing that you've shared the ring with them guys, and like you say, you felt like you put on a great display against them fighters.
His home crowd did, everyone did. And that's taking nothing. I mean, the guy's, he's the world greatest, and you know, I could never knock him. But it just shows on there, you know, I had 2 amateur boxing matches.
Yeah.
The guy was set up with one of the best amateur careers.
Yeah.
With the best trainers, the Ingalls.
And again, what a lot of them fighters have behind them in the early part of their careers is the machine. The machine being the production of Sky, the TV promoters. I mean, fair play to Kell Brook. He did it a bit the harder way, but like you say, when you're the hometown fighter, it's a completely different ballgame to the fighter that has nobody and he's just almost got to fight for his way to the top.
100%.
It's a really tough position in boxing. So at that point, what point? How old was you when did you have a break from boxing, or did you get to a point with the sport where it sort of became overwhelming? Just was you the sort of fighter taking fights on short notice? Not being given time, not being given a full camp, whereas these home fighters were having camps and preparation.
It was very hard. It was very hard to be able to have that time and that thing, because we weren't the ones planning our fights and getting fights in. We were being offered the fights. I'll take the fight. You know, there'd be good timing. You know, good timing for a training camp, and we'll do it. We had what we had. We had some, you know, good sparring with some good lads. Chella Render, Carl Wheeler. Do you know what I mean? These were great lads. Chella Render's gone on and done absolutely brilliant.
Brilliantly.
Carl Wheeler made his comeback and smashed it. Had a good career. He's learnt me a lot. These guys. Do you know what I mean? So I had a good training camp. Did my best as it was.
Because matchmakers can be smart. They can know a fight is going to be in 8 to 10 weeks. And they may leave it a few weeks just for you. They'll message you a few weeks before and say, got a fight for you on this date, are you available? And if the money's good, look, the money might be good enough to take it. But they know their boys had 8 to 10 weeks to train for it. And you'll only have a few weeks.
Yeah, of course. And it was very hard for me because I was working full time as well. I had my son young. Had my partner, my son, had a property. Do you know what I mean? I had to. You're not making the money. No. You know, especially at the start of the career, you're never making the money until you start getting into your 6 rounders, your 8 rounders, or getting contracts and producing himself. But so I had to live a career still. Do you know what I mean? It was very hard on there.
It's one of the reasons fighters go on the road, because what a lot of people, even watching this, don't realise, being a professional boxer doesn't instantly mean you're going to make money and get a purse. You know, a lot of if you're a hometown fighter or you turn professional, it's based on ticket sales. So it's not the glamorous lifestyle. So you've got to maintain some sort of day job, like you're saying, family. It's not as glamorous as saying you're a professional football player and you know you've got a high income coming in every week.
Or you sat at home, living at home with your family, with the support there. I've always had the support of my mum and my dad growing up, but everything was myself. Do you know what I mean? I had to pay for everything myself, pay my training, pay my way there. I didn't have that support. I wasn't lucky enough to have that. But
did you find difficulties eventually mentally dealing with the sport and trying to compete at a high level alongside working and maintaining the family? Was there mental barriers there?
It was hard, very hard at times, because it was. You know, I'd fight anyone. You know, it was. Of course, anyone. I've trained since a kid. I want to be the greatest. You know, you want to go in there, you want to win, you want to get that title, I want to be proud. Do you know what I mean? And it does take it out of you. It takes it out of you a bit, because you know, you got your manager who's like having a little dig because you didn't turn up training that night. Truth is, it's because I'm there working. You know, and that did take it out of me a hell of a lot. Not being able to make that full-on commitment. I wish I could, but I couldn't back then.
It's described as one of the loneliest sports in the world, boxing. And I think when you see, even speaking to people like yourself, the effects it can have on you, even just trying to maintain a position where you can maintain a family and train at the highest level, it's extremely tough because of the demand of it. And it's not as, I think when you're a kid growing up, it's a bit of it's more of a sport, but professional boxing is a business.
Professional
boxing,
definitely.
Outright, it's a business. Of course, the position we're in now, working together, you're looking to begin almost like a final chapter of your career with boxing. And you'll be fighting on the next show that we've got planned. It's an honour to be working with you, by the way.
And yourself.
What is the big motivation for you to step back? Because firstly, how long's it been? Secondly, what's the motivation to get back in the ring?
So we're clocking on 9-10 years.
Almost a decade.
I think about 9 years. I think about 9 years because after I hung the gloves on from pro, I took a little while out. I went back and did some little unlicensed fights, Peterborough shows, bit of excitement, bit of purse, and then after that, I mean, the reason originally I stopped on boxing, but I had to stop fighting was I had a operation on my shoulder, which was originally done which is fine now, but that's the original reason that put me out for a while. But a lot of getting back into the ring now is my concentration, is my mental health, which I've lost over the years quite a bit, and had my ups and downs. And my son, like having that moment, I've always wanted to have my little boy walk in that room with me. It's just one memory that I want to tick off, and have him looking at me there and raising my hand.
It's them sort of memories as well that, I mean, to you it's a massive thing and you'll remember it for life, but even for him, as a youngster growing up, it's something that he'll be able to hold on to. And there's not many people that can say they've had that moment where they're about to have a fight and engage in combat and they've got their son there with them, almost on that journey.
This is for him. This is definitely for him. Do you know what I mean? He's excited himself. He can't wait to come. I'm having him do that ring walk with me. Do you know what I mean? And then I've got him on that side. There's no one else I'm going to look at on that fight.
No.
You know, it's him and then whoever's in front of me. He'll see me raise my hand on that night. Yeah, definitely.
Bless him. I think it's massively important because even for the younger generation of how beneficial boxing can be, and like you talk about mentally, this fight's going to help you. So when people see you preparing, they'll see you on the show, they'll see you walk out to the ring. A lot of people see the lights to see the action, but mentally, for a lot of fighters, this sport is one of the best sort of medicines that you can have to
100%.
Help yourself mentally with everything it includes. And I think especially even going into schools, I know boxing is frowned upon in terms of schools because people probably view it as children learn to fight and being violent with each other, but the release of energy and the discipline that it installs is massive.
100%. I wouldn't be the person I was today. No chance. You know, I'm not saying I was brought up in the slums. I wasn't. I was brought up in a little bit of a rough area in Peterborough. A lot of people, prison, drugs, this, that, the other. You know, everyone takes their own thing. But you know, my dad was quite disciplined with me when it comes to that. You know, if I missed a training session in a week, bang, I was grounded. Do you know what I mean? I was grounded for a week for one session. When I started competing, he hated it. Dragged me out of bed at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
You know, taking me out for runs. I was still asleep when I got back, but it did me good.
A lot of people don't understand that as well, because I'm in a similar position where, of course, my father was my coach, and even at the times it can be, when you look at it one way, it can be quite damaging for the relationship because you're thinking, well, this guy, he's my father and he's being so hard on me. But the real side of it is how he looks at it is, my son is going to war, he's going to fight, it's a dangerous sport, and he wants best for his child, similar to, of course, what your father would have wanted. You want, and that's the proper way. You want your child to go in there and be. It's a dangerous sport, so you want to be as protected as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's what lost it a bit on mine. Going forwards, especially in the pro and stuff, that took a big impact on me.
Yeah,
because I had my dad. My dad was my structure, my routine. Do you know what I mean? He was. That was the person, and don't get me right. To be honest, he was a fighter. He was a tough guy. He was like my idol. He was my best friend. You know what I mean? Growing up kind of thing. Without getting too far into that, but I lost all that. Do you get what I'm saying? And then that took a big impact on it. I was left to myself. Do you know what I mean? And then that sort of lost that routine of fighting. You know, I still always fought. Don't get me wrong, but it lost that structure. I didn't have him there anymore, and it was that took a big turn on that. And
I think, like you say, when you mention that idol, someone to look up to, especially in the 21st century, where I think we're missing that a bit. You know, when you've got a child growing up in the world, and his father is his hero, and it's everything to him, and it makes you go that extra 5-10%.
And that's why. That is because of what I've gone through over the years, and this is why another reason why I'm doing it is, you know, I'm saying that about my old man, and I'm in a position like that myself. Do you know what I mean? I haven't fully been the person I should be. Do you know what I mean? There because of my own things, and this is a new start for me now.
That's it. In a beautiful way, it's almost going full circle in its own unique way now, where that same similar journey in a different way, in your own unique way. You're taking your child on it with you.
Yeah,
and it's a way to reconnect that relationship that you had with your father, which I think is, like I always say to people, a lot of people that box, a lot of people that go in that ring, and I don't care what level it may be. It may be even just 8 weeks, someone started boxing, 8-week training for a fight or professional level. There's normally a lot more to the punching and the gloves and the ring than people realise.
Yeah.
In terms of a final message, a send off, because a lot of people that support you or going to support you for this fight coming up, they're going to watch this.
Yep.
What sort of message do you want to give to them in terms of one last final conclusion of why you're boxing and that journey to the ring?
I'm fighting this for myself. Definitely fighting it for myself and for my son. Yeah, for my own. But the crowd, the following that I'm going to have, I thank them all. It's going to be a busy night. It's going to be a packed night. But this is for myself, and I want them to see. Over these years, I've made mistakes. I've messed up. I've not been half the person I used to be. Not half the person, but I am now. I want them to see that. I want them to see the person I used to be, and that's laced up. That's in that ring. That's fighting. That's me. And I couldn't follow it as well without them being there. So.
Yeah. Lea Handley, thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. And for anybody that watches this, Lea will be boxing on the next show, and we've got some big plans. And I'm looking forward to being on this journey with you.
Yeah, and yourself, definitely.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.